So we all have our favorites when it comes to collecting. Some people like 6 and 7-inch scale figures. Some other people like larger scale figures like Hot Toys and even statues. In today's video, I want to talk about why I prefer Marvel Legends over Hot Toys and statues. Stick around to find out why. Before we start, I just want to say that there is no right or wrong way to collect, and there is no definitive answer as to what is the best. Collecting is individual to the actual collector. All I'm saying is these are the reasons that I prefer Marvel Legends, and I'm hoping that it resonates with you. Number 5. Price points. Let's just get the biggest elephant out the room first. The price points between these three are like night and day. Although figures like Marvel Legends have a way lower price point, that doesn't mean that more expensive is always better. If you're into collecting anything, then that means you have some amount of disposable funds that you're working with. So you can probably make any of them happen. One of the reasons that I like collecting 6 and 7-inch figures is because I feel like I get way more bang for my buck collecting smaller. I mean, you could probably put a whole team together or maybe a couple of teams depending on the size for the price of like one Hot Toy. I don't know about you guys, but I like collecting because it's fun and somewhat affordable. I don't feel like I'm breaking the bank and I don't feel like it's excessive. I can jump in and out like Double Dutch for $25 at a time and decide what it is that I want to do. You could put a team together like the Fantastic Four for about $100. That's not even going to be the tax on what the Fantastic Four would be as a Hot Toy or a statue. Even if you have money that you want to spend, it takes a real special collector to drop that kind of bread in mass. Imagine trying to put together a team like the Avengers. That's going to cost you thousands of dollars trying to get them together as a Hot Toy or as a statue. Let's also talk about the fact that our family members or our wives or whatever, they may tolerate our collecting because they look at it like low key, it's a low price point. It's $25. They're like, yo, let me leave them alone. When they start looking around and they start counting and they see that everything they looking at is a few $100s, people start counting your pockets real quick. All of a sudden, they want to do things and they feel like, oh, well, if you wasn't buying that, then we can do it. That's the only answer they're going to have moving forward after that, because now they feel like it's above and beyond. The answer is always going to be, well, if you stop buying toys, we could do more. That's when the problem kicks in and you start feeling judgment. I don't feel like I have those issues when I collect smaller scale figures. Wait times and payment plans. Whenever I see Hot Toys or statue collectors, I always hear them talking about, oh man, I just finished my payment plan. It's been like a year and I just knocked it off. And I always think to myself, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want a payment plan for Captain America. That's when I'm going to start saying, yo, this is taking up a chunk of my life. Even if they're interest-free payments, it's the fact that I got to make so many payments for something that's not here and for something I'm not going to get for the longest. I'm already used to buying different things every month. Every month is something fresh. I don't want to be 4 months in still paying off Wolverine. That just doesn't do it for me. And neither does the wait time. My brother does Hot Toys and statues, and he's always talking about, oh, well, next year I got this guy coming in, next year Silver Surfer's coming in, and next year this. Next year, I'm thinking to myself, I don't even know if I'm going to be alive next year. What are you talking about? You're making payment plans now? And you're not going to even have it? It's not going to ship until next year? And listen, I know that there's people out there just like my brother, and they got the patience of a statue. I'm not one of them. I'm just now getting used to Amazon 2-day shipping. I'm old school with it. I like cash and carry. That's how I like to do business. The way my instant gratification is set up, I could never be a successful Hot Toys collector or a successful statue collector. I just couldn't. I didn't even want to make a whole topic about this, so I just slip it in here. But shipping is a problem for those bigger boxes too. These boxes are coming from Hong Kong, and the prices that I've seen to ship some of these things have made my eyes open. I've just never seen something that I want that bad that I'm willing to pay that much for and have to wait that long. I just can't do it. It would have to be in stock right in front of me. And by that time, the price is through the roof. Size and space. I mean, it goes without saying that bigger figures are going to take up more space. You don't need a degree for that. But you might need even more space than you're thinking about because these aren't the type of figures that you put behind each other on the wall or on the shelf. You want every single one to pop and stand out, which means they need their own space. That's where the problem kicks in because space is already the number one enemy that we all share collectively. It doesn't make a difference if you're in a different tax bracket and you're like, oh, well, I'm buying more expensive figures. The space you have allotted is the space you have allotted. And that's it. I have never witnessed somebody moving to a new house because of their collection. You kind of have to make it fit. With statues especially because you don't have room to change anything. The size is the size. You can't move an arm, you can't move a tail. You stuck with that artist's rendition and that's it. I can put hundreds of figures in my room, but I've never seen hundreds of statues in a room. I can have 30 Spider-Man figures and not think nothing of it. But a statue collector is going to have to sell a statue to make room for the new statue. Coming from a guy that hardly sells anything, that's a little too much for me. I'm not really trying to drag a giant statue over the USPS every time I want to upgrade. But you can stick a Marvel Legends in a padded envelope and you're good to go. That's more my speed right there. With Marvel Legends and a lot of smaller scale figures, people usually chuck their boxes. I'm one of the only people that keeps them. With Hot Toys and statues, collectors are keeping their boxes. And you need to be mindful of the size of these boxes. So for clarity, a smaller Hot Toys figure box is about the size of a sneaker box. Not a problem when you have 1 or 2, but when you have 50, you can see how this could be a problem. A statue box is something else entirely. I've seen statue boxes run about the size of a 10,000 BTU air conditioner and bigger. Most people who collect these scales, they have a house. They're not really trying to do this out of an apartment. But even then, space is space. Even if you have a whole basement, I don't want half of it looking like I work for U-Haul. You know, it's just something you got to be mindful of. Number 2, durability. So one thing that I do notice about larger, higher scale collections is the fact that even though you can move them around, they are not really as articulate as Marvel Legends are. Almost every single Hot Toys collection that I've seen looks like a glorified museum. They are all just standing in place. They may have an arm up here or an arm up there, but for the most part, they are standing in place. If they have a flight stand, they may be a few inches off the ground, but that's about it. That guy is staying just like that. Either that or they're behind the glass case which screams, "Do not touch me." I get it too, because if that figure falls off the shelf and hits the floor, it's game over. See, Marvel Legends are a lot more forgiving. I've had 40 figures fall at one time, and it was just an inconvenience. Finding the accessories and getting them to stand back up. That's what I had to do. If I would have dropped 40 Hot Toys, I would have been crying. They would have all been broken, and there's no coming back from that. If I'm spending hundreds of dollars on a figure, I need a little bit more than that because I'm just not the most careful person in the world. I also don't want to pay my money to be walking on eggshells. Worst case scenario with Marvel Legends, if something happens to a figure that I really like, I can just go out and get another one. You're not really going to want to go out and replace that Hot Toy, and that's a big difference. It's going to be like when somebody steps on your sneakers first day out the box. Now you don't even want them no more. Larger figures are more expensive and more detailed, but they're a lot more fragile. I feel a lot more comfortable taking a Marvel Legend off my shelf to show my younger son or one of my nieces or my nephews what that's about than I would a Hot Toy. Quantity over quality. I'll be the first one to admit that Marvel Legends are on the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to figures. By no means am I trying to say that Marvel Legends are superior to Hot Toys or sideshows or statues. That's not what I'm trying to say. If I said that, I would be lying. At the end of the day, it comes down to this though. What do you prefer? What is it that makes you happy? And what are you trying to do? With me, I prefer the quantity over the quality. I'm not even trying to do Mafex or SH Figure Arts. That's just not the price point that I'm interested in, and that's not what I'm trying to do. Other people may feel differently. For them, it may be about the details and the realism, and they want Hot Toys because that's what they're into. But we can't take for granted that Marvel Legends, especially the good Marvel Legends that we all checking for, they're pretty hard to find, especially in 2024. Just because the MSRP is lower doesn't make them inferior. In fact, I'm almost positive that 6-inch and 7-inch scale collectors outnumber all other collectors combined. I mean, I don't have any stats on that or anything, but I'm just taking an educated guess. The same way that there's more Honda Civics on the road than BMWs. That's where I'm getting that logic from. At the end of the day, I can make more use of the space that I do have, fit more of a universe into my room, save money because they're smaller scale, and not have to treat them like they're porcelain. That's what keeps it fun for me. And if it wasn't for that right there, I probably wouldn't be doing this at all. My conclusion. At the end of the day, there is no right or wrong way to collecting. Collecting is what makes you happy and takes you to a different place, and nobody can tell you what that is. All I'm saying is these are the reasons that I prefer smaller scale figures instead of hot toys and instead of statues. I don't look at it like I wish I could do something bigger or I wish I had more money, because that's not the case. I legit look at these 5 reasons, and that's the reason that I prefer Marvel Legends over anything else. Until next time. Peace.